Hello, everyone. Welcome to 49ers Around the World, Football Around the World. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm here with Botond, who is the #1 football analyst in Budapest. That's the truth. He is the #1 Hungarian football analyst, which is a up-and-coming football area. And we're going to have Jamie Hill on the show later today. We're going to interview him, former BYU coach, about what it's like relocating to Hungary and building a football culture there. But first, we're going to talk Niners. Botond, thanks for coming on the show. How are things in Budapest?
Wow, thanks to be here. I'm glad as always. It's an honor, especially after watching your video last day. It makes me cry inside because you're such a great man. It's so great to hear your success after all those bad things that happened to you. And that's something that I wish to all the world in this situation with this COVID and stuff. Of course, things are not so great right now in Hungary, but we hope the best and we try to stay strong as long as we can. So that's all my good wishes to the US as well.
Thank you. Keep pushing because you never know when the break is going to happen. You really don't. And you're looking over here and then it's always over here. It's amazing. Anyway, Botond, let's talk Peter King and these trades. Here's the thing. When Peter King proposes stuff about the Niners, I take it very seriously because I know he's tight with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. He was in their draft room. They invited him in the holiest of holies in 2017. He documented like 24 hours of it or more, 48. So Peter King says, I think the Niners should do this. I think that's a guy who's talking to people in the organization and they're floating out things that they might be comfortable offering. I don't know if it's going to get it done, but this is what Peter King proposed, and I want to get your reaction. I haven't even told you yet. So the three-way trade. I'm not going to give you all the details, but basically it involves the Niners sending Jimmy Garoppolo and a first to Houston. Houston sending Deshaun Watson to Minnesota. Minnesota sending Kirk Cousins to the Niners. So Minnesota would send picks and stuff to Houston as well. We're not concerned with that. Basically, the Niners give up the 12th pick in the draft and Jimmy Garoppolo and get Kirk Cousins. What do you think of that?
Well, you all know that I don't like Kirk Cousins. So, if we are talking about what Shanahan wants, I'm pretty sure that he would be the happiest person around the world after that trade because he can get his true love, Kirk Cousins, with that trade. But the true winner, if that happens, is the Minnesota Vikings, as I see this thing. Right now, I don't like the trade at all. I don't mind that this is the way to go as the front office of the 49ers, but we may see that, and it's just because how obsessed is Kyle Shanahan with Kirk Cousins, and that's all. And somehow it makes me sad as well.
It makes me sad. That's funny. It's like more than anything, it just makes me sad that we're talking about this. Yeah, I don't see what Jimmy Garoppolo adds to the pack. Like, first of all, I think the number 12 pick is too much for Kirk Cousins just on its own. And Jimmy does he have no value? Are you just throwing him in there or you're giving 12 plus? Because the way I look at it is the Colts traded the 13th pick in the draft and got DeForest Buckner. I mean, shouldn't you be able to get more than just Kirk Cousins with the 12th pick? He's not that great.
Nope.
Is he an upgrade over Jimmy? Maybe. But come on, he's not as good as DeForest Buckner.
Nope. No way. There's no way that he can bring this team more upgrade than DeForest Buckner was in his position to this team. I think that Buckner made much more impact for this team than Kirk Cousins ever could do for this team. But of course, it's different positions, and
right.
Nowadays a quarterback is way more important than a defensive tackle. But of course, we have seen some opposites of my thinking with Aaron Donald, who is the heart and the soul of the Rams. And yeah, they can affect the game, but QBs has much more impact. And that's why I do think that Kirk Cousins may have more value, but I don't see how he can worth a first round pick. And that's the truth.
I mean, I wouldn't trade the 12th pick. I wouldn't trade a late first for him. I think he's worth a second at best, maybe two twos. He's in his 30s. He's not that great. He's not going to perform well behind the Niners' terrible pass protection.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen enough of Kirk Cousins. He's good, not great. You're probably not going to win a Super Bowl with him unless everything around him is terrific. He's expensive. Teammates don't seem to like him. Former teammates seem to take shots at him publicly. I don't know. No.
And the other thing is, which is, I think, really important for a team is that we have talked about it before when we have talked about Mike McGlinchey, that I don't like players with that toxic aura that Kirk Cousins has. Especially at the start of his career, he was like, okay, man, just go away. I don't want to see you performing as a pro football player because you don't deserve it. And it's just because how you act as a person.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't want to see in the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a weird situation. Right now, you got a situation where Kyle doesn't like Jimmy, but his teammates do. Now, if you got Kirk, you'd have a situation where the teammates probably don't like him, but Kyle does. Is that better? I mean, you've now traded the number 12 pick in the draft. You still have the worst quarterback in the division. You're still probably the worst team in the division. You still have terrible pass protection that really can't protect your investment. I don't know. I would say that I would give a thumbs down to this proposed trade from Peter King. Thumbs down. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. But
okay,
that thing is that I see that it can happen this offseason.
It actually sounds realistic. I think the Niners would trade number 12 and Jimmy Garoppolo for Kirk Cousins, which I think is terrifying and has to tell you something about Kyle Shanahan, that he's still making irresponsible personnel decisions, and they really would benefit from hiring both of us so we could just go in there and be like, no, absolutely not. No.
Way.
No. All right. There's another proposed trade though. Peter King was not done. This is just Niners Houston direct. The Niners would give up Fred Warner, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mike McGlinchey, first round pick this year, first round pick next year, second round pick next year, third round pick next year. 4 picks, 2 firsts, a second and a third. Fred Warner, who's got to be worth a first, and Jimmy G and Mike McGlinchey. What do you think of this?
Well, I'm pretty sure that this won't happen. I can't see a way how this happens. I don't see how much value Mike McGlinchey has.
It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. I don't know. And the funny thing about what Peter King said is, like, he said that Fred Warner and Mike McGlinchey could be cornerstones for Houston. What? How could you put him in the same sentence as Warner?
I didn't know that Houston needed a pass protecting titan.
It's like,
I haven't seen it as a need for the team. So
all I can think is that Peter King didn't watch the Niners very much after Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt last year, because wow, Mike McGlinchey, the cornerstone, huh? So I was thinking, okay, so the Niners 2 first, Fred Warner is a first, he's worth a first, so that's 3 first round picks, and the second and third, that's great. And Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy G. Peter King throws them in the deal like they have value. What is Mike McGlinchey's value right now? I think he throws him in there because he's a former first round pick. So he's like his value would be like a what?
5th rounder.
5th rounder? Something like that. Okay.
Yep.
I just put a poll on Twitter. Who has more trade value right now? Mike McGlinchey or Javon Kinlaw?
That's no question. Javon Kinlaw, as I see.
I would say Kinlaw. So I don't think this 7-1, another thumbs down for Peter King. Peter, you got to do better than this. Mike McGlinchey, cornerstone. No, if you want to come closer, you would have to take McGlinchey out of the deal and put in Kinlaw. And I don't even think that would get it done.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's an expression here in Hungary, and it's great because I think that it describes what happens right now in the US in the off season. We say that right now it's cucumber season in the NFL.
What's that mean?
It means that nothing happens, so we have to make some stories to make it interesting.
So why is that? So why do you call it cucumber season?
Because here in Hungary, when it's cucumber season, of course, most of Hungary in the past 50 years, before tourism and other things increased here in Hungary, most of the people were living just by working and having some fields to work
farming
with. For example, they had cucumber and fruits and other things like that, vegetables. And when there were cucumber or fruits or vegetable seasons, we didn't do anything else, just cucumbers and other things like that. So nothing interesting happened. We had to
the worst time of the year, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cucumber season. That's all we got. That's rough. I hear what you're saying. I like that. I'm going to use that from now on. James Foster says, Fred Warner, why would the Texans want him? They already have Zach Cunningham and Bernardrick McKinney. Yup. This doesn't make any sense. Peter King, do better. No. If they're going to make a trade, I don't think Fred Warner does it. You got to throw in Bosa or Kittle. McGlinchey and Garoppolo. Like, really? Those guys are going to move the needle in any trade? No, I think these both. If the Niners do either one of these trades, it's bad news. First of all, if they do the second one, God love them for getting Deshaun Watson for a middle linebacker and a pass protecting tight end, as you put him, and a quarterback who can't play more than, I don't know, half the games on his contract. Yeah, God love him. If they trade a first and Jimmy G for Kirk Cousins, then Kyle Shanahan deserves whatever's coming his way because he's finally got what he wants.
And the thing is, after Peter King's takeaways with these strange trades, I must say that I have to post something like that into my Twitter to boost my followers. Some ridiculous trade, for example, 49ers could trade Mike McGlinchey for Matthew Stafford, and I don't know, maybe I can find somebody else who's worth way more than Mike McGlinchey, and
exactly.
And people will talk about it. That's how I should do that. I learned a lot of things after this.
Well, I have one major takeaway from King's, and maybe this is a different topic, but this I always go to the conspiracy theory. So, like, what is really happening here? I don't think either of these deals happen, but if he's connected to the Niners and they're whispering to him, what does this mean? I think it means a couple of things. I think it means they definitely want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. We know that. I think it means they also want to trade Mike McGlinchey. When I asked Kyle Shanahan to evaluate Mike McGlinchey, and he went on and on and on about how good he is, and then said with unprompted, and we draft him again too. To me, that sounded crazy. And I've been thinking about it for months. Like, why would you even say that? And I think it dawned on me after seeing this. They're trying to keep his trade value up. They're trying to say he's good. I don't care what Grant Cohn says or what a couple of clips on. He's good, and Pro Football Focus says it. And so what they're going to do, everyone knows he's not good. He's not good. So what you do is you put him in a multiplayer trade. You throw him in with other things. Put Jimmy in there too. And that way, when you send him out of town, it's not really clear what his value was. What was he worth? Was he worth a fifth? Was he worth anything at all? Did he have negative value? Were you paying them to take him off your hands? You don't know. Same thing with Jared Goff. Like, they might have been able to trade Jared Goff for, I don't know what they could have got for him straight up. But you put him in a big package and people are like, I don't know. Because they're losing value on McGlinchey. You draft him in the first round, you're going to have to trade him for basically a fifth round value. You're losing value on Jimmy Garoppolo. You spent a second to get him. Now you're going to trade him away for like a third or a fourth. But instead of taking the PR hit, that is trading them by themselves, put him in a whole gumbo, in a whole pot, throw it out of town for some picks, and people don't question it. That's what I think their plan is. Trade them together. Hey, you want our guy? You got to take McGlinchey and Jimmy. Got to take McGlinchey and Jimmy.
Of course, if you say something enough times to somebody else, even if it's not true, they will believe that. And that's something that they are doing right now. It's some kind of psychological stuff that they are doing. They want to artificially raise the value of these players.
Well, let's talk about how they're doing it with Jimmy. I think it's a good segue.
Yep, and that's the topic. Well, if you are saying enough times that we will be with Jimmy, Jimmy is okay. Jimmy is a great quarterback. Jimmy is our quarterback, and
Mike McGlinchey is our right tackle. All that.
And Kyle Shanahan says that, who most people are recognizing as one of the greatest offensive minds of football, then there are going to be teams who will believe that, and that's how they can raise Jimmy's value a bit. And that's what we've seen in the past few weeks, as I see it, because we heard that only. No critiques to Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. After last season, there were some critics from Kyle Shanahan into Jimmy. And that's how I see that they just want to raise his value, and after that they want to find a trade partner to at least get something for Jimmy.
Exactly. And so what they're trying to do is, like, they call it in America with stocks, the pump and dump. You got to pump the value of the stock up before you dump it on some poor fool who doesn't know what he's buying. And that's what I think they're doing with Jimmy and Mike McGlinchey, the pump and dump, classic pump and dump maneuver. They did it originally with Vance McDonald. It was clear they hated Vance McDonald, Kyle Shanahan. Remember, Trent Baalke had just given him like a 5-year extension, $50 million to be like a cornerstone of the franchise. Mike Shanahan wanted to get him off the team right away. So first practice, I was there. He screamed at Vance McDonald during warmups about how he ran some route. Like, he stopped the whole practice to make an example out of Vance McDonald, which to me felt premeditated. Like, I'm going to make it known how I feel about this guy, so when we trade him, people aren't surprised. But anyway, that kind of stuff gets out. It hurts a guy's value. Kyle doesn't like Vance McDonald. So why would I trade you a lot? So all of a sudden, great blocker. It's really improving. Boom, trade him mid preseason. I think the pump and dump is in effect. But I think they're so transparent. Like, I don't think it works anymore. I think everyone looks at John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and reads their face, reads what they're thinking. It's right there. It's obvious. They have no poker face.
Yep.
So they can pump as much as they want. They ain't dumping.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I see it, it's just a tactic for them.
Yeah.
To make as much value as they can. They feel that they are in trouble right now after last season, after the season of 2020 when we went to Super Bowl. This season was just a disaster as I see it. And which just signed everybody else, not just to me, that there are some problems with this offense and with Kyle Shanahan is that defense was way better, although they had way more injuries than this offense has. And everybody said that this offense can perform with almost every quarterback in this league, no matter what their skill set is. But this season proved us wrong.
Yeah, it's true. He's still trying to prove that he can't win without Jimmy G.
So the thing is that they are feeling that they are in trouble and they just want to bring out the best of it. That's why they are doing this artificially trade value building or something.
Okay, let's talk about the Carson Wentz trade. How did the Carson Wentz trade change the quarterback market? And, how does that affect the 49ers in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I must say that I'm happy that we didn't trade for Carson Wentz because as far as I see, he's almost as injury prone as Jimmy is right now. So I don't see how we could have been better with him, although he has way better skill set than Jimmy has. He's more and other things like that. But I couldn't see him as an improvement over Jimmy. So that's why I'm happy that we didn't trade for him. But after that Stafford trade, which was ridiculous as I see that, and I mentioned it before when we have first talked about that, I do think that it's just put the values of the quarterback into the right place where they belong.
So you think the Carson Wentz deal was a fair value that they got for him, the third and a conditional?
It was overpriced because Chargers needed a quarterback.
Yep.
They needed it desperately because the only thing that they are missing is a good quarterback to lead them into the Super Bowl. Because I do think that they can be contenders if they can.
Colts?
Yep.
If
they can keep Carson Wentz healthy next season, and they have the offensive line to do that.
They do.
So if they can just raise Wentz's self-confidence, I do think that they can be in the Super Bowl next year, or at least in a good spot in the playoffs.
How do you think this trade affects the Niners' view of Jimmy? Looking at they're looking at Philly. Philly benched Carson Wentz. They have his replacement. They said all kind of terrible things about him. He's not this, he's not that, he's no good. We're giving up on him for Jalen Hurts. And they still got multiple picks for him. Do you think the Niners look at that and they're like, well, everyone's telling us Jimmy has no trade value. He's hurt. He's this, he's that. Is he that much worse of an asset than Carson Wentz? Should we hold on and see if we can get like that, the third and the second? What do you think?
First of all, I have to say that we won't get as many picks for Jimmy Garoppolo as they got for Carson Wentz. The thing is that Colts, as I mentioned before, needed an at least good quarterback desperately to be in the playoffs next season. Right now, I don't see how the 49ers are just ranking themselves, but I do think that Kyle Shanahan is smart enough to know that they are not playoff bound next year. And I'm not seeing them as a playoff bound team next year. So they have to find a partner if they can get the most of the Jimmy trade that needs just a quarterback, and at least decent quarterback who can lead them into better position or into the playoffs. And the thing is that I don't see a team that has quarterback needs, and that's the only thing that they need to get into the playoffs. That's why I don't think that we can get as much value as.
What about New England?
Well, I do think that New England has way more problems than just quarterback.
I agree. I think even if they were to get Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know if they make the playoffs. I think that would be the big irony
problems as well.
There's no receivers there.
Yep.
You know, Edelman's old, Gronk's gone. What is he going to do? Why would he succeed there? I'm not sure he would. So they could. I mean, and maybe New England even realizes that. Like, why should we trade for Jimmy Garoppolo when we're not going to win with him? I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know how this Carson Wentz thing affects the Niners' view of Jimmy, but I still think what they're thinking is, if we're patient, we might get something. Some team might make a bad decision. Maybe it's New England. Are there any other teams that you think might do it? The Jets?
If we were in last year, maybe we could have traded Jimmy Garoppolo to the Texans for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, maybe last year, right? They had the same numbers last year.
So bad in the past years. We are so unlucky that they changed a lot this season.
I know.
Right now, we can't just have Deshaun Watson, for example, Mike McGlinchey or something like that, because I'm pretty sure that they would do that. They could have done that last season.
Okay, so what do you think the Niners' realistic quarterback options are right now?
Draft a QB in the second or the third round.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, because even if you cannot just get rid of Jimmy, you have to have another choice, another chance to be a better team in the NFC. And as I see them right now, they have the worst QB in the NFC. I don't see how we can get into playoffs. You just have to try and draft a rookie quarterback in the second or the third round. There are some talents there. I don't think that besides of Trevor Lawrence, there are any other quarterbacks right now in the draft who are a first-round pick.
I agree with that. I feel the same way. And the thing about like taking a quarterback in round one, you might like the guy like Justin Fields, for example. He has great tools. He's big. He has a strong arm. He's fast. He's got maybe better tools than Trevor Lawrence. But he doesn't have much experience. He started 22 games in college. He didn't elevate Ohio State to levels that, Braxton Miller didn't do. He didn't take them to places they hadn't gone before. So when he's a first-round pick, he'll be the second pick in the draft to the Jets or the fourth pick in the draft to Atlanta, something like that. And the expectation for him is start right away and make the team good right away. Like, elevate it. We stunk. You're a stud. Make us good. He's never shown that he couldn't even do that at Ohio State. They're great, and they didn't become greater because he was there. So basically, a guy like him is set up to fail, where if he had been drafted in round 2, he could have sat for a year. He could have developed. He would have had a chance. He might have been on a good team. So, being taking a quarterback in round 1 is scary. You better have some type of a system in place, a supporting cast in place for him to succeed, or else you could get Joe Burrow and he'd be out by week 7. So
so I do think that it's a great option to draft a quarterback in the second or third round.
That's it.
That Mac Jones or Kyle Trask will be available in the second round.
They're cool. I like them.
And I like both of them because they both showed some development in college, and I do think that they can continue that in the NFL.
I think they're both better than Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac
Yeah,
Jones, and Kyle Trask.
they're
I think
both
they both
better
are.
than Garoppolo. I
They
don't
are.
like Justin Fields at all. I do think that he's a one-read quarterback, and that's something which means failure in the NFL. So I don't think that
Every single Ohio State quarterback has failed in the NFL, and I don't think he's that much different than the rest of them. He didn't do anything at Ohio State that you know that Cardale Jones didn't do, that Braxton Miller did, JT Barrett didn't do. I mean, I just don't see it.
Zack Wilson is also another great option, in my opinion. He just didn't play against any great college defenses. That's why I don't see how he can perform in the NFL. He can be a high-risk, high-gain pick, but I do think that a franchise like San Francisco 49ers don't want to take that risk. We have done that in the past few years, and those things didn't end up well. So I don't mind that we should just try to draft Zack Wilson. He's not a great option, in my opinion. Maybe
I think they've already maximized him at BYU. I mean, the system he's in really is perfect for him. There's a lot of one-read throws. He doesn't have to read the field very much. Just guys wide open. He doesn't see the field very well, but he doesn't have to because his first read's open most of the time. They get him on the move a lot. It's a lot like the Shanahan offense. They've kind of maximized what he can do. And if you put him in the NFL where he actually has to play against NFL speed and talent, I don't think he's going to look better than what he looked at BYU. And I think when I watch him run around and do whatever he wants at BYU, I just think like, yeah, Sam Darnold would have looked like that at BYU. A lot of draft busts would have looked great at BYU. No, I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't see a super special athlete there. I see a guy who's like Johnny Manziel, maybe a little taller in terms of athletic gifts and tools. So I'm not, and like, again, if you could take Zack Wilson in round 2, I like that. He's an athlete. He's got upside, but I wouldn't want to start him right away. I wouldn't want to take him as a top 10 pick, and that's where you got to get him. So I'll let someone else ruin his career. I'll let someone else, I'll let some other coach go down in flames because they hitch his wagon to that guy. Sorry. Be the next Adam Gase.
Yep, and we have other options as well, like Josh Rosen. I would give him a chance to prove himself that who he is after all, because we don't have. I don't know who he is. I haven't seen as much of example from him as I wanted to see, just to say anything about him. But I do think that he has a great arm, and with a great coach, he can be way better than he was in the NFL before. And there's another name which I want to throw in, and I know that most of the people won't like that, but I would like to see what Marcus Mariota can do with Kyle Shanahan.
I don't think it's the best fit because I think Shanahan really does want to go down the field, and that's not really Mariota's game. I think Mariota would be a better fit with New England, throwing the shorter passes and then adding on. That's the way I look at it. I think Shanahan wants to go down the field and hasn't been able to because Jimmy can't. And in that sense, Mariota could run the offense that Jimmy runs. There is no question about it. In that sense, I'm with you on that. He could definitely run the offense that Jimmy runs and move a little bit better. I think he could. But the reason that Kyle keeps going back to Cousins is because Cousins can throw down the field. So, but I see what you're saying. Like, Mariota's cheap. He runs the offense that's in place. It's already a bunch of short passes that are dependent on yards after the catch. He's mobile. And, the guy I like the most in this draft, Kellen Mond, physically reminds me a lot of Marcus Mariota. A lot. So, it's an option. What do you think? Here, make the case.
Well, what I do see of Marcus Mariota, that, of course, he won't likely throw through the field a high or a great or long pass, which Kyle Shanahan prefers. But I have seen at the end of the season that Kyle Shanahan called some option games with CJ Beathard. And that's something which in which Marcus Mariota shined in the NFL. He's great at it. And he can throw, of course, some really great short balls as well. And we have seen why we have that Super Bowl run, sadly 2 years ago from now, or at least a year ago, that we can win games just by running the ball and having short passes.
True. And he would enhance your running game because he can run as well. Yeah.
It's something in which Marcus Mariota is way better than Jimmy is.
You made a great case. You're making a great case.
And he gives you the option to not have an as perfect offensive line that great offense needs. So
the drawback is that he's had injuries
of the offensive line just by being as mobile as he is.
The drawback is he's had injuries, but the nice thing about Marcus Mariota is he's cheap. I mean, he's not going to make starting money. He's basically a high-level backup considered right now. He's basically considered the high-level backup. So it's like $15 million a year, maybe $10 million a year, something like that. And I wouldn't want to pay him all that money to be my backup. That's too much money to spend on quarterbacks. But if you get rid of Jimmy and you go with Josh Rosen, a rookie, Nick Mullins, now in Mariota, you bring in a former high draft pick who is not being like, you can actually have a quarterback competition. He's not making so much money that you just have to give him the starting spot. Yep. And if he loses the quarterback competition, you can afford an expensive backup because your starter is probably making $900,000 or something like that. So I like the financial position he'll put the Niners in. He's it's like getting a really cheap car that might run pretty well. It's like, oh, it's okay. Think about the price. I can get this for nothing. It's great. Yeah. I like it. And again, the big point here to me is that guy was the second pick in the draft, and they've given up on him before his 30th birthday. He's probably about Jimmy's age. Josh Rosen, 10th pick in the draft. They gave up on him before his 23rd birthday, basically. And you know what? A lot of people in this draft coming out, could be Justin Fields, could be Trey Lance, could be Zack Wilson, are going to bust, and people are going to give up on them really fast. And it's not going to be fair because those guys might have succeeded had they been second-round picks who could sit and learn, but instead they were thrust into the action on a bad team. And I think there's a market there. Get some of these quarterbacks off the discard pile and revive their careers because they have talent and they've been given up on too quick.
Yeah. The thing is that I do think that we can get him cheap. He can perform instantly. And I do think that he is smart enough to learn Kyle's system. And that's why I do think that he is the greatest option right now that we could have. It's Marcus Mariota.
He'd be cheaper than Trubisky. I think he'd be cheaper than Trubisky.
Yeah.
I think he might even be cheaper than Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think the other option would be Andy Dalton. Would you rather have Andy Dalton or Marcus Mariota?
Well, Marcus Mariota, no question.
He can move. Yeah. I like that. He wasn't on the radar at all. That's a good call. And yeah, it's just because he can't throw down the field. He's not supposed to be the long-term answer. No. You're bringing in a cheap competitor for the job who's going to compete with Josh Rosen and a rookie and Nick Mullins, assuming he's healthy. I like that. Good call. Yeah. Let's talk the Niners' top priority during the draft because both of us feel they shouldn't take quarterback in round one.
Yeah, I do think that we should try to get an offensive lineman, preferably a left or right tackle. I really tackle because I don't see how we can keep Trent in the team for next season.
I agree. You can't draft a guy in round one or in the top 15, an offensive tackle that the scouting report says probably not going to be able to move over to the left. You don't want that because as the game has evolved, most of the snaps when you're dropping back in pass protection, both the left tackle and right tackle are on islands. But most of the time, that was the Super Bowl. That was what happened to the Chiefs.
Yep.
When they said that McGlinchey's like, oh yeah, he's probably not going to be a left tackle, then why'd you take him? Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway, so yeah, I agree. Offensive tackle, I think, is the biggest need. They might take it. The fact that Mike McGlinchey's name is being floated in proposed trades by Peter King makes me feel like the Niners deep down know. They know.
Yep. I'm pretty sure of that. Or if we cannot get a left tackle, or if we can keep Trent in the team, I think that we should draft a big cornerback.
Well, yeah. J.C. Horn would be great. Yep. It's too bad. I think he's going to be an all-pro, kind of like Jalen Ramsey. But if they can get a real good left tackle as well, because I'm with you. I don't really want to re-sign Trent Williams. I've made the case before, but it seems to me that he's going to be the highest paid offensive lineman ever. You should be getting leadership along with that. We have a guest coming in here. So why don't we bring him in? Why don't you introduce him?
Wow. Hi, Jamie.
I'm trying to get this light.
Our guest today.
That's okay.
Hi, Jamie. Our guest today is Jamie Hill from Hungary. he was the coach at the 49ers and the BYU as well. Right now, he is signed with the Fehérvár Entrowners, which is a Hungarian team. Last time when we have spoken live with Grant, I already said that it's great news for Hungary, and that's why I got the chance. Thanks for the Entrowners of Székesfehérvár that they allowed me to get an interview with Jamie. And of course, Jamie, thanks a lot to be here.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys having me.
Of course. I was just looking at your Wikipedia right now. I saw you were at SF State.
I graduated from San Francisco State. I did.
I'm in Oakland. Are you from the Bay Area? Or where are you from?
I'm from San Diego.
Oh, okay.
So I went to school at SF State, and so I'm familiar with the Bay Area. I have cousins that are from Bay Area, so yes. Mm-hmm.
And are you in Hungary right now?
I'm currently in Hungary, yes.
How long have you been there, and what's it like? I mean, to move there as an American.
I've been here maybe 2.5 weeks. So
wow.
It's an adjustment period, but it's because of the COVID. It's only really the adjustment period because of the COVID. There's not many people out, so I haven't got a chance to get accustomed to the culture and the surroundings and things of that nature.
Botond, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, of course. First, Jamie, there are not a lot of things on the internet about you, but I would like to ask, first of all, how did you get into Hungary? I'm eager to hear your story because as far as I know, after the US, you went to Brazil and you coached there. How did you end up being with the Entrowners of Fehérvár?
Well, I got a call. From Victor. He's our general manager. He asked me if I'd be interested. And at the time, I wasn't sure. I was living in Brazil, enjoying my time, enjoying the sun. And I just wasn't quite sure. So I told him I needed some time to think about it. And then after about a week or so, I said, okay, yeah, I'd be interested in looking into it and see what the parameters were and kind of going from there.
I see that you've coached all around the world. How did that become your path in coaching, and why are you so well suited to coach in Brazil and now in Hungary?
I don't know if I'm well suited to coach in any particular place. I've coached for 35 years.
Of course.
And been fortunate to be around a lot of good coaches and been around a lot of good systems. How I got international, well, take that back, because I was in Canada for 6 years. But other than Canada, how I got to Brazil, a guy that I actually hired on my staff now, his name is Joe Douglas. He was in Brazil and asked me if I'd have an interest in coming out to Brazil. And I was like, I don't know. I'm good in the States. I just want to stay here. And he said, you should look into it. And I said, well, if someone contacts me, I'd be interested. And I got a contact like a week later. The guy asked me if I'd be interested in coming to Sao Paulo. I was like, well, I've never been. But all my friends were like, go to Brazil, go, you got to go. So I said, okay, I'll go and check it out. And it was a great experience. The biggest thing is that you get a chance to engulf yourself in a new culture and just totally engulf yourself into it. And it's a brand new surrounding, and you get to learn all different likes and dislikes. And it's just a great experience for me. It's been a terrific experience for me. And I'm hoping that same experience will be here in Hungary as well.
Do you find yourself coaching players who don't speak the same language as you, and what's that like?
Oh, often. There is a language barrier, but we always have players and coaches who can translate.
Wow.
And you found it. I thought it was going to be challenging at first, and it's actually not as challenging as you think. You got to be. It forces you to be a really good teacher.
Right.
And it forces you to explain things very, very well. And it's been actually good for me because it's made me slow down, think about how I want to explain it, and then go through the process of actually explaining.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So it's improved your teaching ability. Do you find yourself teaching the game as much as teaching the techniques? Do people in Brazil and Hungary know football that well?
They know the outlining information of football because of the new advent of social media. So you got Twitter, you got YouTube, and whatever, and they can find out. They know the buzzwords. They know the outlining of information, but they don't know the inner workings. Because they've never done it. No one's been there to teach them that.
Interesting.
Well, I'm really interested because I've had some coaches from the US while I was playing football, but I've never got to ask them this. But what do you think about the talents around the world, about the players in Brazil, about the players in Hungary, because there are some players who went to the NFL straight after playing football in Europe. For example, Giants signed a player from Austria last season. Before that, there was Moritz Böhringer, who was signed with the
Right.
Vikings, and he's a physical freak, to be honest. So, how do you see players around the world? Of course, they are not as well trained tactically, but how do you see them as talents?
So athletically, they're gifted enough. Their size, speed, and weight. Those are the parameters they're able to relate, no problem, without issues. But they have the problem is that because they've never played youth football, they've never played high school football. So there's so many different aspects of the game they haven't learned yet. So everything's brand new to them, and the game is much faster than you think. If you've played it, if you've been a part of it, if you coach it, it's really fast, and things happen within 7 seconds. You have to be able to process a lot of information within 7 seconds. So it just takes time. I'm not sure if how far those guys will go, but it's all based on you, how fast you can learn information, how fast can you assimilate this to your surroundings, and how quickly you can your coaches get some trust in you that you can do the things that they're asking you to do.
What are your goals as a head coach in Hungary? Is it as simple as win, or is it much more basic in terms of what you're trying to build in a foreign country?
I think it's the same goals you always have anywhere else. You begin with the end in mind. The begin with the end in mind means you want to build a culture. Create a culture, create the core, and then stimulate growth from the core.
Okay.
And in order to do that, there's a process. There's a process you got to, and they've got to learn the different techniques and different skill sets that are necessary, and learn the schemes and all those things. But it's my whole vision has always been begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is to win a championship. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same. So it's just different. You just have different pieces. It's just,
of course,
you don't have a king and queen. You have pawns.
Yes,
it's a chess game. So you just have, and you can still win a game with the pawn. So
that's right, because the opposing team is working with the same pieces, basically, right? In Hungary.
Exactly. So I tell our coaches the same thing. I said the one thing is because there's enough people, you can get the people on the bus, but now it's my job to get the people in the right seats. Once you get them in the right seats, you have a chance to be successful.
So are you talking to players who think they play certain positions and you got to tell them, no, you're actually this, or talking to players who have no idea what their position is? They're just good athletes.
No, they play football here for a period of time. So
okay.
They have some idea, but on any given team, people are not necessarily in the right spot. It could be whether it be from NFL to Pop Warner. You have guys in your team that are successful, but they may not actually be in the right position. So it's just, the game is not really different. So the game is the game.
Of course. Yeah.
Yep. The other thing is that you are in a pretty lucky position because I don't know if you know that, but Székesfehérvár is the greatest team in Hungary financially. Those players have much more chance to improve than in other teams. For example, Fehérvár has the only real American football field in Hungary.
Oh, wow.
They have their own training.
We have all the facilities. We have
like
all the
that.
facilities we need. We have everything we need to be successful. It's different than other places I've been. The Brazilian teams, they don't have all the facilities that you necessarily need. We have practice fields. We have a game field. We have locker rooms. We have weight room. We have everything we need.
Yeah.
So
So how do you see your team right now? Your Hungarian guys? I have seen on Facebook that you have met them in the weight room,
yes.
if I remember. But how do you see them? What do you know about them?
Currently, we've had a couple of workouts. We've done some strength and conditioning. We've done some speed and agility things, and then we're doing some positional work right now because we just finally got our offensive coordinator here. He's only been here 3 days, so then we'll start working on scheme aspects. But as it stands right now, they've been doing lifting weights for 2-3 months. They've been doing strength and conditioning for 3 months. They've been doing speed and agility for a little over a month and a half. So it's all coming together. It takes time. takes time.
How are you going to go about developing your offensive scheme? Are there certain principles that you believe in that you want to implement, or are you going to take a look at your players, give them and figure out what suits them?
Well, like anything else, you have to make sure you have the right personnel. So everything's predicated on what you have. You can come into a system and say, I want this or that. If you don't have the right pieces, you can't do that. There are some things that I prefer to do, but we have to make sure we see all our personnel and make sure we have all the right pieces to do the things that are necessary.
Well, what is your background? Oh, sorry.
Well,
okay.
So we have a quarterback.
Sorry, keep going.
That throws well. He played a lot the last time. They have a quarterback that's like a Taysom Hill kind of guy.
Oh wow!
So we have a little bit of everything. We have the top running back in the country, not the country, in all Europe. We've got the top running back for all Europe. So we have enough pieces. It's all comes down to the offensive line, offensive and defensive lines. Can we get enough of those? And then the secondary is a little suspect still. A little suspect.
It must be tough to find those big guys out in Hungary, right?
Well, no, I thought that would be easier, but there's enough teams that they siphon, they steal from you. So they take the guys from your team. So you don't get them all.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Other question, because as I mentioned before, we are usually talking about the San Francisco 49ers, and you were a coach by the 49ers. So I wanted to ask you that, did you follow our last season, so the 49ers last season, and what are your thoughts about that?
I didn't follow them real closely. I followed the NFL, but because this is what I do as a profession, I don't watch every single game. What happens is coaches, they critique the game. They don't actually watch the game. So sometimes I just get tired. I don't want to watch. It's like, but I do know some information about the 49ers, about what they did last year. Their biggest problem is injury. You know, when you have 18 or 19 guys that go on IR, and with potential 41 guys have gone on and off IR, it's hard to be successful. I know everybody's had problems because of COVID, but they've had extra problems with the major injuries. And then you take that, you have I think it was $71 million of assets are being used up in the cap on injury reserve. That's 35% of your team.
He's like, I didn't really watch the Niners that much. I wasn't really following the Niners much last year, but they had $71 million on the bench. You knew. You're right. You're absolutely right. They did have that much.
I follow a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So I see that you have a defensive background.
I follow a little bit of everything, but I don't know.
Who when you were with the Niners, who was the defensive coordinator? Was it Jim Moore Jr.?
Jim Moore, when I first got there, Jim Moore Jr. was the secondary coach.
Secondary
he
coach.
and I worked together in the secondary. John Marshall was the defensive coordinator. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
So
all right.
John Marshall was the D coordinator.
Okay.
And Jim Moore was the primary secondary coach. I was the secondary.
Okay, so you were working with Eric Davis would have been gone by then. Who was it? Marquez Pope? I'm trying to think of my childhood here.
Yeah, Marquez Pope, Darnell Walker. Pope, Darnell Walker, Merton Hanks.
What a baller.
McDonald. Tim McDonald.
Yes.
Rod Woodson.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a nice secondary.
We had some guys. We were pretty good.
Yeah. They're a pretty good team.
We finished number 2 in the NFL.
Wow.
Well, we finished number 1 total defense. And we finished number 3 defense in the secondary. So, I mean, we were pretty good.
I remember you guys being pretty good. You had Bryant Young, too.
Yeah, the problem is in the 49ers is that if you don't win the whole thing, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
Matters if you
that's what the current regime is learning right now. They went to the Super Bowl and made it very far, but the fans really, it doesn't give you that much unless you win it. So the fans are getting a little restless again. They're getting restless.
Right.
Yeah.
When you walk in the building, you see 5 Super Bowl, LeBron trophies every day. You walk in the building. There's nothing else to ascend to. That's it.
Yeah, it's like with the Lakers with all those banners on the city. See, that's it. That's what it is. It's sorry if you want to go to a different team, you have a lower. But are you coaching the 49ers of Hungary right now? In terms of
I don't know
prestige?
yet. I don't know
Okay.
yet. We've only won championships. We won, and I wasn't a part of that. So we just gotta build on that.
All right.
Wow.
Do you have any more questions, Botond?
Yeah, I have one more question left. How long are you planning with the Fehérvár Enthroners?
I have a contract. It's called 1+. I have a 1+ contract, which means it rolls over every year. Every year it rolls over. It's automatic rollover. So that's it. I mean, I've talked to the general manager. He wants me to do a long extended period, but I've only been here 3 weeks. I don't know yet. I gotta get time. So, but I plan on being here for a period of time. I'm enjoying my time here. We have a great group of administrators. We have a great group of players. So we look forward to having a long, prosperous season.
Well, if you run out of things to do, I'm sure Botond can show you around. I mean, that's what I would do if I was in Botond.
Yeah. I may help you. I'm planning on traveling to Székesfehérvár into one of your games, and I'd be happy to make an interview there with you after some months in Hungary. I'm eager to hear all your stories about Hungarian players, about the Hungarian language, because I don't know if you guys know who are viewing us right now, but Hungarian is one of the hardest languages in the world. So it's pretty hard to learn that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jamie, if you're looking for some quality control coaches, me and Botond, we're available. If you need someone to help you out in Budapest, we're there. Just got to call us. Quality control. We got you.
Oh, it's just right down the street. It's perfect. Close.
I'll catch an Uber. I'll see you in 2 hours.
Yeah, actually, I'm about
2 hours. Yeah, exactly.
miles away from you. So,
Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Best of luck in Hungary. I hope this is a wonderful time in your life. It sounds like a terrific adventure.
Yeah, thanks for the chance to interview you. I wish you the best in Székesfehérvár.
It's a great experience. It really is a great experience to see the world.
Yes, it's amazing where football can take you. Sounds great. I'm jealous. I wish I were out in Budapest with you two. Have a good time. Take care, guys.
Take care, guys. Thank you, Jamie.
Bye, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right. That was really interesting. There's football in Hungary, and if you were a coach, why would you not want to do that? It's an opportunity to do what you're passionate about, what you love, make a living doing what you love, and it's an opportunity to travel the world. And I like what he said. It's like chess, but just with different pieces. It's still the same game. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Other thing is, and I don't know how many players are watching us who were in college football teams or in high school where they played football, but they couldn't go anywhere with it. Guys, if you still love the game, if you still want to play the game, there are still great chances for you to play it all around the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in Brazil. There are about 3,000 teams all around the world, guys. And there are a place where you can find yourself a team. It's called europlayers.com. Just register there and try your luck. I'm pretty sure that it will be the greatest experience in your life. And of course, you can help us develop football all around the world.
Also, same goes for coaches. If you're looking for an opportunity and it's not there at the high school or the college or the NFL team you're looking for, go to Budapest. Give it a shot.
Yep.
Botond will show you around. Shan says, who is a can't miss prospect the Niners can get at the 12th pick? That's a good question. I think I'm going to name a name. You name a name. I'm going to name Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle for Northwestern. You go.
I would say that too.
If they get him, I'm cool with that. I haven't watched a ton of his film. Maybe I'll come away with it not like, but from what I've seen, I like him. I think he's one. I also think J.C. Horn from South Carolina is another.
He's a great prospect, but I do have some problems with him.
Tell me why.
That he will get a lot of flags in the NFL. just because his concentration issues. I do think that he's versus a first rounder, but he will need time in the NFL and a great coach to coach him.
What about Patrick Surtain II?
I haven't seen a film of him.
Okay.
I have read about him.
Alabama.
I still have to watch some films. I don't like to say anything about players who I'm not familiar with because I don't think that if I don't see him play football, I can really say an honest opinion about him.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. That's fair. Well, we're coming up on about an hour, about 11 o'clock my time. What is it, 8 o'clock your time?
Wow. Close to 8. Yeah.
Close to 8. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for bringing Jamie on the show. That was really unique and interesting. And he was a great sport. And it was interesting to hear what he had to say about how it makes you a better teacher. I would be proud. If I were him too, I'd be proud of that. I'm coaching a bunch of players who don't understand a word I'm saying, and we're going to win the championship. Let's freaking go. I love that. We'll get him, Jamie.
Yeah, but I do think that it's a great adventure for all those coaches and players who came into Hungary and who can be a part of a team of building up a franchise here. Because to be honest, the Székesfehérvár Enthroners wasn't a team 10 years ago. There was no Székesfehérvár Enthroners, and last year they won the HFL, which is the greatest class American football championship here in Hungary. So it's just 10 years.
Nice.
Great.
Look what can happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe by next week, we'll have our own football team in Hungary too. You never know. We might.
Yeah.
We might be in control, or at least be quality control. Botond, this was great. Thank you so much.
As always.
I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
See ya.